Hey, everybody. It's Brian Max from Dave's Corner Garage, and I'm here with my pal Connor Attrell, who's another racer. And we're going to talk a little bit about racing Hyundais and how Connor got to go from, starting racing all the way up to doing a little bit of IMSA racing, which is a lot of fun. If you don't know me, co-host of Dave's Corner Garage on AM 740, Sirius XM, I have a YouTube channel under my name, and right now, I also own an IMSA team with a couple of AMG GT4s, and maybe we'll see Connor on track one of these days. We might drop by the Honda Indy this year, so we'll see. We'll see. So, Connor, you've been, I've known you for as long as I've known you. You've been driving the Elantra TCR, the Elantra N TCR. How did you actually get started? Because I've never asked you that question before.
So my journey into a race car was very much because of my dad. We've run Hyundai Racing Canada now for about 15 years, and we had campaigned 3 Genesis Coupes in Super Touring back in the day. So basically, just around before the beginning of the pandemic, my dad gave me and my brother the opportunity to go run the Genesis and regionals and kind of just dip our feet in and see how we liked it. And we both had a really, really good showing. We had a great time, and it just sort of started that bug. And then when the pandemic was sort of full blown, we sat down and we said, we're not going anywhere. We're not really going to be doing anything. And he wasn't sure what he wanted to do with racing because we were running a single car. And then we just sort of got another TCR car and then did some more racing, and it sort of developed from there. So I've always had my dad's hand-me-down cars, and this year, again, I have his hand-me-down car. It's just kind of how Quinn and I started. So it's been about 4 years of racing. This is going to be, the FEL's 3rd season now. It's going to be a big showing for Sports Car Championship, and a little bit of difference in the schedule. We're going down to just 2 cars because my dad is now stepping back from racing with us on this level. He's still going to do some vintage racing.
Sure. Yeah. I could appreciate that. He's been racing a long time.
Yeah, quite a while. I mean, he raced many years before I was born, and he took a little break at the time that me and my brother started coming around, early 90s, and that was also when he started our Hyundai store. So we also have the 2 Hyundai stores, so goes hand in hand, and it's sort of the idea, we race what we sell, and in supporting that, and if I'm not selling Hyundais, I'm racing one. So it's kind of just been an organic growth, and definitely looking forward into the future. We were able to do IMSA last year, although we ran into many speed bumps. A little bit of a different animal, endurance racing.
IMSA is another, as I've learned already, IMSA is another level.
Yeah, but it's just it's just to see where we can take it from here. And this year we're really drilling down on trying to have a little bit more cohesive showing, because to say we had some bad luck last year is an understatement. So, the reason that I'm now driving my dad's car is because we have to reshell it after it had a boo-in effect. So, sort of just kind of a little bit of a rebuild, stepping back, looking at it, especially with us changing our schedule. We're doing 3 races every weekend with the FEL series, Motorsport, Indy, GP3R, Trois-Rivières, and then back to Motorsport for the last round. So it's the same amount of races, just going to be a little bit more aggressive in terms of time between the races. If you have an incident on the weekend, it's going to mean a lot more. So it's bringing up the level of competition a little, and I think the more prepared we are, the better off we'll do. So we're just trying to get focused on that and really have a good run to put the car up front this year.
Well, let's talk about the FEL series for a little bit. I was pretty excited when Chris By announced that, because we could always use more racing in Canada. When I started racing, there were 7 road racing championships to choose from, and it's a different era now. So FEL is kind of I can see a little bit of modeling happening from IMSA with GT4 and TCR categories, but it's a sprint-based series.
I think it's a really good stepping stone for Canadian racing, because it sort of bridges the gap. And I mean, I didn't go through this. Like, I never go-karted. I never drove, Formula 1600, which is some of the sort of popular stepping stones. So I am a little bit removed from it, but my viewpoint on it is it's a really good place for young Canadian racers to kind of cut their teeth in a sports car environment, because coming out of, let's say a 1600, where do you really go in Canada? And it opens up an opportunity to race here and not sort of the standard, am I going to go run sports cars in the States or am I going to go try to race formula cars? So it's a really good stepping stone, and I think it's a great place for Canadian racing to kind of have that opening showing, especially with it mirroring the IMSA category. It gives you sort of that opportunity that, you come in, test it out, see how it goes, and then sort of a litmus test for the success carrying that into IMSA. So I think it's a really good stepping stone. I'm hoping we're going to see some more growth of the series this year. Like Toronto Indy was such a huge event, and being able to be there, although we had, again, some of that bad luck last year, but managed to still win the race that we had bad luck in. So it wasn't all bad, but it's just one of those things where if we can get out there and get more people aware of it, get some awareness, eyes on the series, it is a high level of racing, and it's sort of that jumping point for when you were to go from even sprints into this. It's a completely different animal. So a really good opportunity for young racers, and I'm super happy to have been a part of the inaugural year, be able to really support the series, and Hyundai, Quaker State have been super supportive of it throughout our career with FPL and then racing SCCC, and can't say enough good things. Just hope we can get some more cars out, and I'm ready to go this year.
Well, it's the series has changed a little bit, which we're going to talk about in a second, and it's good for you guys as well. But we're considering holding our cars after the Canadian Tower Motorsport Park event and running with you guys with our AMGs.
You said, yeah, come out.
Yeah, please. Yeah, we're trying to make that happen. So I already spoken with Chris about that. And if we can make that happen, we're definitely going to be there. I probably won't drive, but I'd be tempted.
It is an incredible racetrack. And after driving on the sim, it doesn't do any justice to when we showed up there last year. So I would love to have you out there with us. It's awesome. You can go race against Demi and show me what's up.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see. But that's a whole other argument. Now, what I dig about what FEL is doing this year is they've got a new entry-level category, and that is called TCA, which is more production-based than your cars and TCR. And they do start with road cars, convert them into race cars. And the entry point in terms of purchase price of the car is significantly less than a TCR.
Yeah, they're a bargain in comparison to the TCRs and the GT4s. I'm excited to see it out there because, again, kind of what we're talking about that stepping stone. It's the perfect entry point to get into a sports car. It's going to be interesting to see how many we get out. I think we have like 3 or 4 coming out so far this year, and I know they're expecting more to kind of show up throughout the season. So it definitely adds another facet, and I think it's a little more relatable to the general public in seeing those cars because it looks identical to the car you're driving on the road. TCR cars are similar, but they don't really have the same look.
No.
Same with the GT4s.
GT4s are much the same. The TCRs and GT4s, they're very sophisticated race cars, as you know. And even though we start with the same body shell in both of those categories, kind of after that, it's not much of the road car that's left. You guys might use the engine. We use the same 4-liter twin-turbo V8. But after that, it's a racing gearbox. It's, the seating position is totally different. It very little remains of the original road car.
Yeah, I'd say like with the Hyundais, the DNA is there. But kind of what you're saying is the TCA cars are a lot more equatable. Like you could build a TCA car yourself. I don't think you could go and put a TCR or GT4 together in your garage. So
no, and you're not allowed to either. So that's the big difference. I really do like the TCA category. It's kind of where I grew up in motorsport with front wheel drive cars, and I dig that production based. So it's to me there's a lot of appeal. It looks like the running costs are going to be relatively affordable as well. And the car, the cars, given that we're talking about cars like the Elantra N road car, it's still quick enough to be a lot of fun and challenging.
I think they are going to be quicker than people are speculating they're going to be. I've talked to some of the teams in the States that have had some experience with them about it briefly, and they said they're pretty well sorted cars. And obviously it's the operating costs that is the draw, because getting the car and getting all that, that's one thing. But when you're, almost spending that amount of money on operating costs on the car as well, it's sort of comes in equation a lot more. So I'm excited to see that opportunity for people to kind of come join us and be able to hop into the series if they like to. And I think it's a really good opportunity to get a lot of seat time and experience with that car, right?
Yeah, and with the season, your 3 races per weekend. That's a lot of wheel to wheel time, which is the best thing you can do as you're developing as a driver.
Well, and I think that's huge too, because it's sort of, especially for people who are coming to these races that haven't necessarily run these tracks before, you have a little bit more time to get used to the tracks, get used to the car, and then let's say that first race you're learning the track more or less, or being competitive. You have a lot of opportunity to push, and you're not sort of writing off your weekend after the second race. I think it's going to be interesting to see how the points end up laying out, especially with what Motorsport is like versus 2 street courses. So you may have someone who's very, very good at the street courses, and then have the opposite, that someone who really likes the GP course.
Right.
So that's going to be interesting to see how that affects the points and kind of where people end up. And also we have to see who's coming out. I know we have a fair amount of TCR cars.
Yep.
Fair amount of GT4 cars. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see what the field looks like on that first weekend. We're there for Victoria Day Sprints Speedfest at Motorsport. So I'm really, really looking forward to it. We have pretty much everything ready to go except for putting my car back together.
Right. That's a bit of work. So you're going to be driving the Elantra N TCR?
Yeah, I'm in the Elantra and Quinn is in the Veloster. But actually on Thursday, Quinn and our crew chief went down to Indianapolis and picked up the shell for my Elantra. Okay, so they have it back now, and we have to start working on that, where we're going to basically transplant everything and figure out what else we need. So we were a little concerned on that showing up, but now we know we're in the timeline that we're going to be good. So we just need to kind of button down, get the car ready. Other than that, we're going to be out probably doing a test day first weekend of May at a regional race.
Yeah.
So try to get some more seat time, work on having an engineer with us this year, just trying to have a more complete program when we show up for the beginning of the season.
Yeah, these are, the TCR and GT4, they're sophisticated cars, and there's a lot. These are not the kind of cars that I started racing that you just set up and deal with it in your garage kind of thing. This is something else. You kind of do need some engineering help, and you've had help along the way from Brian Hurd Autosport, which is they run the Elantra N's in IMSA Michelin Pilot.
They Brian himself and the whole team, they are such consummate professionals at what they do, and the amount of knowledge we've gained from them and how eager they are to kind of share that and see success in, and anyone racing a Hyundai at a professional level, they're there to help you. So they've been great. We had the opportunity to go down to Daytona with them and do a Hyundai driver camp this year, watch their race. I've never been to the track, so for me it was like, go down there, see the track, hang out with all the guys. And we've done the camp before, so I know a lot of the drivers that were there and met all the new faces. And just to be able to go down there and see the track. And we did some training, we did some sort of back and forth, but then also sat with them in the pits. We helped them, did some of the pit stop stuff, and learned a lot about sort of how they operate. And I think that's one thing I took away was, process, procedure, and sort of who's doing what, and having that very concrete and how important that is. But and they've provided tons of support for us. That's actually where I cut the car from. So now we're just we're gonna see what we can do. Hopefully we're trying to go run IMSA again with them this year, but I think it's going to be a focus on really trying to see success in FELs.
Yeah,
kind of putting our energy towards that. But they've been excellent to work with, and we're hoping to see them have some success this year again.
Yeah,
it's two in a row or 3 in a row now for them.
I think it might be 3 championships in a row.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see how they've grown, and I've spent time with Brian Hurd at different IMSA events, and they're tremendous. There's a depth of talent there that just blew me away, especially for TCR. It's incredible.
Well, and the level of engineering, and to see them we work on the cars, I work on my own car, but to see them come into the pits and someone climb under the car and adjust tow in a hot pit lane and then send the car back out, it's kind of like, I'm like, what? I was a little shocked, and it's sort of just getting to know the cars, and they explain, they go in, you mark all your adjustments based off turns, and you have kind of a scale, so it's not going to be exact, but you have an idea where it's going to be.
Right. And, I mean, this is, a production-based car. So it's not, the highest level of sports car racing. So that's the kind of thing you have to do. But it gets you right in the ballpark. And, IMSA, whether it's GS or TCR, it's incredibly competitive. Insanely competitive.
Yeah. And I know that from when we ran at Motorsport. Like, it's just a little bit of a different level of competition, because I find, you're investing so much to be there that you really, really have to show up. And I think it's just sort of looking at what we're going to do in the future. I don't think it'll be this year, but next year I'd like to be out for at least the Motorsport round and hopefully be able to be on track with you in an IMSA race. So,
yeah, I hope so. So, this year it's tough, because if you do decide to do that IMSA round, then the next weekend is Honda Indy, and that's asking a lot of your crew, right?
Well, and that's the main reason I think we're going to look at not doing it this year. We're talking about going down to Lime Rock, where it's TCR only, a little bit, less overall cars, and it's close, but still going down to the States and the cost associated. So we're going to see if it happens, but definitely try to be out there next year and kind of go from there. I think we're going to have a really, really competitive season in FEL this year.
Okay.
I think we're gonna see a lot of high level changes. We're not going to have one person win everything.
Right, just here. I think I saw there's some new TCR equipment that's landed, so you're going to have some formidable competition.
Yeah, there's some new cars, some new faces, and there is, like you're saying, with how technical these cars are, there is, if you haven't worked with them before, there is a learning curve, and I feel like, me personally, I'm third year into it now, and I'm just getting to the point where I'm starting to really understand the importance of engineering and the characteristics that different drivers may want the car to have. So it's, in working with my dad, his advice at the track is go faster. And when we try to talk about setup, it's, in his mind, there's one way to have the car set up, the way he would want it.
Right.
And sort of being able to mitigate that and be able to have me and my brother discuss our setups independently and with an engineer, instead of sort of relying on the idea that there's one way to be fast. So just sort of exploring our options in that sense. And we did last year, but like our last race of the year, we had both power steering pumps fail in our race cars on the same weekend. So I almost drove directly into the wall in corner one, but didn't. But that's why we ended up basically not doing the last race weekend. So with the Indy stuff, we had a rough go last year, so I don't know if it's Cable's wood, the rock on wood.
Yep.
And we're gonna be out there in a big way, and I'm just super excited to be able to support Hyundai, and especially with the N brand and the way that's sort of gone recently. I mean, we are dealers, so all I do is talk about Hyundai, but the N brand stuff, and it's like you're saying in terms of the car, very, very different than a road car, but the DNA of the Veloster N or the Elantra N, and now even, well, I guess not the Kona N, but same engine, same drivetrain. Yes, it translates very well in driving them, driving the street car on the track versus driving the race car. Obviously, you're not in the same realm, but the feel is there.
It is, and I like the Elantra N for road cars, one of my favorite. I love a really good sorted front-wheel drive road car, and that is a car that I find I can really get on top of and really make it do what I wanted to do.
Yeah, no, I had to give mine up, our pace car. I had my friend twist my arm a little and make me sell it, because I was very close to purchasing it myself, and I think there might be one in the future for me. I completely agree with you. Like, in terms of, and the other thing that a lot of people, when we're talking about the N car, is you put it in eco mode, you get 5.5 liters to 100 kilometers.
I know.
And then you hit the other button and it has 300 horsepower and overboost, all sorts of stuff. So what impressed me the most about it was it changes personality so much. Usually, you hit the sport button on most cars and you're kind of, what happened? What actual difference are there? Noticeable difference in the end. So definitely need to have one of those in my life this year. We may have another pace car for the series, but we're not sure. So, I mean, I told my buddy, you got a special car. It's been on basically every racetrack in Ontario. That's was a GP3R.
Yes.
Ripped around Toronto Indies. So kind of a cool thing, cool story.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy driving that car, but yeah, I'm sorry you had to give that up. I can appreciate that.
I'm sure I could find another one.
Eventually, you might, being a dealer,
I might be.
You might be able to figure that. So how does the, racing Hyundais and being a Hyundai dealer work for you? There a connection there, an obvious connection?
I mean, there is a connection. Like Hyundai Canada has been our sponsor, one of our sponsors for the entire of our race team existing. So
yeah,
we've had a really, really good relationship with Hyundai Canada, and especially I find with the N brand, just to be able to be out there in the motorsports sense, there's a big connection there because it's very cool. And it's sort of, when talking to people about it, especially at the store, the two points that Hyundai is so strong on now is EB cars, and with, the Ioniq 5, the Ioniq 6 now, they blow most of the other competition completely out of the water. So it's focusing on that, but then also having the sports car side of it where you're seeing very successful cars and success in racing, and there's some serious motorsport pedigree being created, and it's cool. And for me, it's I get excited talking about the N brand stuff, and because people come in and they want to drive, that's why I like driving them, because when people go, is that an Elantra? And I go drive it, right?
Exactly.
It's sort of get people out there, and it's just organically easy to be excited about it because I drive the race car. I talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
It's all I do. All I do is cars, right? Like me and my friends, all we talk about is cars. So there's very few points in my life that don't have racing or cars tied into it.
Right. Yeah, I get it. And again, I can't say enough good things about the Elantra N. Such a fantastic road car, just straight out of the box.
Yeah, no, incredible. And it's I always try to get my friends to drive them and stuff, and be like, take it home and show your parents, right? So I'm gonna have to get another one, but like Hyundai's just done such a good job on the feel of the car too, in terms of the aesthetics when you get in it, the feel of it. It feels like a sports car.
Yes, well, there's a lot that goes into making an Elantra an N. And it's not apparent on the, unless you really know, that it's very much a factory special. There's extra bracing all throughout the chassis, not just a couple of little braces, all throughout the chassis.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where I tell someone, you could buy an Elantra, but you couldn't build this car yourself. You couldn't build an Elantra N in your garage, so to speak. And it's exactly to that point that it's from its inception, it's been designed to be a true sports car. I really enjoy them, and I'm excited to see where the N brand goes, because we're starting to get some of the N line cars as well, which are also, they're great little sort of in-betweens where, it's hard to justify a 300 horsepower Kona to someone who uses it to drive to and from work.
I like the idea of a 300 horsepower.
It's nice, but Kona N line, we've been done really good as a brand, I feel like, rising to the occasion of what the expectations of consumers are these days, and, if you're something you're driving every day, you want it to be a little fun, and everybody makes a good car these days. So it's what you're doing that's unique that really makes you stand out. And I feel like the N brand hit the nail right on the head in terms of being a cool thing. It's so many people come in and talk about it.
Yeah, and
it's just incredible to kind of have that interaction. And then with the EVs, hopefully we'll see an intersection of some sort of N brand and the Ioniq brand down the road.
It looks like that's coming.
I've heard some stuff. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say, so I'll leave it at. I hope
what I heard is I can talk about. So So it appears that there's an Ioniq 5, an Ioniq 6, full N, not just N line. I would expect, and this is my assumption, that there will be N line models, but understanding how Hyundai approaches things and doing things right, the N's are probably going to come first, and those will be some very formidable performance-oriented EVs.
Well, and I think it's one of the first sort of true high production capacity EV brands that's gone and made a sport version of the car. Yeah, Teslas, they're capable, but you have to do a lot of stuff, and it's not necessarily, they're not a track car they're making. So to see it sort of as a weekend track car, that would be incredible to have that. I'm actually hoping to get one of the Ioniq 6s as a demo this summer and be able to spend some time in it, so we'll see them. And the EVs, they've absolutely crushed it.
Yes, I agree.
Just wish we could get more at the store. And that's it. That's the only issue we have.
Right. So let's take go to a totally different chapter of your racing career. Where was your first race, and what were you driving?
My first race was at Motorsport, It was a regional weekend, and it been 2019.
Okay.
And I had done it because I had previously ice raced, so I needed to go get my A license if I wanted to eventually race with my dad. So the idea was, instead of testing, let's just go to a regional weekend. Ran it in GT3, did pretty well. Did well enough, even though we didn't run in the Pirelli side of the series. You have to mess with points or stuff, but did quite well, and then just kind of rolled it from there. And it was interesting because I've spent so much time at the track. Like, I've spent years and years in motorsport racing with my dad and being part of the crew, and it was honestly never something where I really thought I would end up in the race car to this degree. It was sort of the idea that, it's what my dad does and he enjoys doing it, and maybe down the road I'll be able to get into it. And now it's, I'm going to try to race at the highest level possible for as long as possible in the time being, because I feel like it lit a fire in me, and it's, the level of competition. So now it's just trying to satiate my appetite with as much racing as I can, whether it be sim racing and, even coming out here and having a chat with you. It's just to be involved in it in any way so that I can maintain that into the future. But very not necessarily the most normal way how you end up in a race car. No, because I was given the opportunity and told, get in the car, don't crash, and go fast. And I'm like, I said to my dad, any advice? You want to give me any driver coach? He's like, don't die. Okay, that's fair. And, it's sort of, the way my dad is, his level of heart control is insanely high. So trying to talk technical about the car with him doesn't really, he's just kind of like, just do it. Right. So it was interesting to learn in that way. And then previously I had done some ice racing, but in terms of road racing, that was my first foray into it, and saw success. So keep doing it as much as we can. And it's now definitely become a staple passion in our lives, and it's very much something that we do as a family. Yeah. My dad skis in the winter. We don't really ski anymore, my brother and I. So it's sort of the idea that in the summer, that's what we do as a family. That's our hobby together. Yeah. Bit of an expensive hobby. A little bit of an expensive hobby. Yeah. That's, it's okay. And it's also, I think, a little bit of a fortunate coincidence that Hyundai has embraced motorsport and building some amazing race cars. Oh, and it was sort of that thing where, if it wasn't for Hyundai and then brand, and then honestly, if it wasn't for the pandemic, I don't know if I would have ended up driving this TCR car this year. So it's sort of that butterfly effect thing where it's like, wow, we're doing it, and honestly, just going to try to keep doing it for as long as possible. And Hyundai has been such a good support of the team, and they get behind us in a big way when it comes to the motorsport side, because it is the importance of representing the brand. And so, some of our competitors that we race against, like Audi, Honda, Mercedes, they're our competitors in the sales side of things. So I think it's very important to have presence on the racetrack in a sense like this, in cars that are tangible to people, that you can see that road going equivalent and sort of make that connection. So it's just nice to see it sort of becoming more in Canada. And I love any sort of auto sport, but it's nice to see a high level sports car series. Yes. Professionally. Yeah. And it's something that was missing for a while, and it's nice. And, and it's a proper professional series. There's a television package. You're at all the right venues. Yeah. So it makes sense for, Hyundai Motorsports in Canada to be participating there. Oh yeah, it's huge. It's huge. And I think at Indy this year, that's gonna be our main focus, trying to have some cars, get some of the end brand cars out, and just kind of show off what Hyundai has to offer, especially at Toronto Indy. So it's a good opportunity for us, and I think it's just, I'm super proud to be able to represent the brand, represent the N brand, and talk about it. Like, I got to go see where they build all the TCR cars in Germany. I went on a trip, and I made a phone call, and they're like, yeah, come by. So I got to see where they build them all. They're all built in Germany, like very much by hand, outside of some things, and just to see sort of the level of professionality that goes into building the cars. Yeah. And then, of course, you walk to the other side of the building, and it's the whole WRC program. Right. And it's like the insanities. Yeah. It was interesting to be able to see that. And then it's also how much development they do actually at the Nürburgring. And yes, it's funny. You think you go to Germany, you're going to see German cars everywhere. It's all Hyundais on the road. Like, it's true. you tell people that, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "No, it's literally like every fifth car is a Hyundai in Germany, and they've done very well with the branding and the marketing in Europe, and it's it's nice to see us have a little bit of something unique to talk about."
Yeah, but I remember when they announced that development center was going to be assembled, put together. Yeah. Now it's a complete thing with tons of employees, lots of engineering going on, and of course building the WRC cars and the TCR cars, and the your Elantra starts life as a body shell off the same production line as the road car.
Same place, and it's just interesting to see even the jump from the first TCR car, the i30 we had, to now the Elantra. The Veloster is very similar to the i30. Jumping to the Elantra, completely different beast. Different power steering system, slightly different suspension. So it's definitely developmental in sort of into the future as well. And to see now Hyundai has Cyril running their Motorsport. They've definitely shown that they're invested into this. So it's I'm very excited to see where Hyundai ends up taking their performance brand, and especially in combination with the EV stuff, because those are going to be incredible cars to have. So eventually when we get there, we'll see what happens. And I think the brand is in a really good place, and when I'm excited to be able to represent it. We just need to see what happens in racing in the future, especially with the talks of hybrid versus gasoline.
Right. So I think what we're going to see are whatever they're going to call sustainable fuels. I think that's what we're going to see first before, at least at our level, they start implementing hybrid technology. So I think we're good for a little while. Knock on wood. I think we're going to see this sustainable fuel thing happen before anything else. And I think at our level of competition, adding a hybrid power unit adds a whole other level of complexity that we really don't need.
Yeah, batteries aren't fun when you have an incident with the
there's that too.
There's many safety features we have to take, or safety procedures we go through at the store when handling anything hybrid or EV. And to bring that, like when I was down Daytona, I got to see the BMW guys and the Porsche guys when they were working on the LMDH cars.
Yes.
And they had to get someone to come out and turn off the car, but it was a specialist because the whole car was hot. So it was kind of, don't touch it at all. Don't even look at it. Don't go near it because it could fly.
Right.
And then to put another battery in. So seeing that at a high level, and then like you're saying, the complexity, and if you have an incident, what's it going to take you to fix it?
That's the thing. So I'd like to think that that's the way it's going to go, which is good, and that gives us a few more years to play with cars that we're familiar with.
Well, I would tend to agree with you. It's also, I like my vintage cars, so it'd be nice to be able to have something.
Yeah, you got something older that you vintage race.
Yeah, so I've got a '83 Toyota Starlet. My grandfather had previously owned a Toyota store that my uncle now owns, so it's sort of the idea that, I wanted an AE86 very badly.
Oh, sure.
And the one I found was not so safe, let's put it that way. And I didn't think I was going to be able to save it, so I've actually found this car. It was an old GT5 road racing car. It started its life as an ice racer, and then was caged. It was raced in Ontario at Motorsport, and we bought it and basically redid it. And at this point, it's all 8.6 running gears. So it's the 1.6 4-inch, 5-speed T50, and then the whole rear axle out of an SR5, which I gotta get some disc brakes on, but we've done it up pretty good. And my dad's got a 240, so we'll be out with the Varec Vintage guys out for the Vintage Festival at Motorsport this year. My brother's also got a vintage car, but his is way faster than mine, so I'm kind of jealous. Got a FDR.
Oh yeah, I don't know how vintage that is.
Your street ported FDR 7.
Yeah, no.
So
no.
I fit in nicely, so we'll see. It's good. I've never run it in the current configuration, so I drove it on the road a little, even though it was caged, but just to and from, and then didn't know what I was going to do. And we'll be out this summer, see how it actually goes. I'm going to get a sail or some sort of string with a hook for down the back straight at Motorsport.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, having raced slow cars at Motorsport, it's a long trip up the back straight.
Well, and I don't know what it's going to feel like, because I went from the Genesis, and then the first weekend I was running, I think I broke out of GT3 into GT2 on my first weekend, so it's running like 127, and then to get into the Starlet now is going to be like
150.
what am I waiting for?
Exactly. So I think when we were running the micros, we were doing like 144s.
That's what I was aiming for time.
Okay.
About a 145, 144, because it should put me. I'm gonna be the only Japanese car racing a bunch of British cars.
Right.
In that class.
Right.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun.
It'll be
fun. Yeah, you obviously, I think I've met your brother once.
Yeah.
So I really don't know Quinn. Are you guys competitive when it comes to racing? You work together when you're racing?
So Quinn works at the dealership that I manage.
Okay.
So he's our service advisor.
You're kind of his boss
To a degree, yeah. And it's I find we're competitive to the point that it's helpful, and then we tend to be a little bit more relaxed beyond that because we've dealt with my dad, and it's the goal is you always want to beat the people you're being most closely compared to. So certainly is an element of competition between us, and it's just something where we have different mentalities to a degree. My dad is very much go as fast as possible initially, like let's just send it and figure it out. And me, I don't like hurting the car.
Right.
I like to finish. It's about consistency. So it's our results in terms of that, we see a difference. But the talent in our series, not only within our team, like my dad's a very talented driver, and even with my brother now that we've gotten more seat time, because I think that's one of the big things I realized that, when you're driving go-karts and you're in a Formula 1600 or, as a kid, you're getting seat time. It may not be in that exact car, but it's still seat time.
That's right.
It's invaluable in a racing sense, because the more time you can spend driving a car on the edge or driving a kart on the edge, it adds to your ability and being comfortable and knowing reactions and having dealt with situations. So I think it's now that we're going into our third year of driving these cars, we're starting to work on those more finesse things that I wasn't aware of. Like the idea of drilling down the idea of trail braking and then having discussions about that.
Yes.
I was just doing it automatically in Genesis.
But now you're doing it, really consciously. And of course, you can pull data from the car so you can understand what that's all about and how to apply the brakes. So when I drove our GT4 car, it was purely a break-in day. I might have got a 60% brake pedal pressure, like nowhere near what I would need to be if I were driving the car in a race.
Yeah. And the one thing that I like about kind of the TCR car in terms of driving habits, because it's front-wheel drive, it's got the power, it's sequential, but you're no traction control, no ABS, it creates very good habits.
Yes.
Because once you commit to a line on the corner, if you're a little off on your line and you're not correcting it, making out at a positive, you're just losing time. So it's the idea that you have to be consistent and be as accurate as possible, but then you're also dealing with the fact that you can't be too heavy on brakes. You need to know where that point where you're going to lock up is. And then again, with the TC, it really helps with your inputs. And it's something that I think, when I eventually hop into my vintage car or anything else down the road, it would have done me well driving the TCR car and really sort of cutting my teeth in the racing world in the TCR car.
Yeah. So we're gonna wrap up here shortly.
Yeah.
And let's see. So your first race, and we're gonna run 2 cars or 3 cars this season?
2 cars this season.
So yourself and
Myself and my little brother Quinn. He's in the Veloster. So the Elantra will be number 80 this year. The Veloster will be 86. We're gonna retire 88 from my dad. Although I wouldn't hold my breath from the idea that there is still an I-30 sitting there,
right,
that isn't being run, and my dad didn't really get to actually run the second race at Indy, so I wouldn't be overly surprised to say, Sam, load the car in the trailer. I'm gonna run one of the Indy races with you, but he's gonna do the vintage, kind of go off that. So it's just see where that goes.
Yeah, that could be fun, and hopefully he comes out and joins you guys. And I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, he's a racer's racer.
I'm kind of assuming he's going to be out there because he'll make it through the first weekend and then kind of be like, okay, I can't sit here and watch you guys.
Right.
So we'll see where it goes. I mean, we have the third car. You may end up seeing it in the series with someone else in it, not related to the family, depending on how it goes. But if we have it and someone wants to use it, I figure it helps the series. So that's kind of what we're working on now. And then also the engineering thing and just getting really, really prepared for the beginning of the season. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys make your debut on track too.
Yeah, well, we're getting there. We got a lot of work, So the FEL Championship starts at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, Victoria Day weekend.
Victoria Day Speed Fest.
And next event is,
I say Indy.
could be the Honda Indy, July.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Trois-Rivières.
Then Trois-Rivières, then back at most.
3 races per weekend, so you're going to be very busy.
Yeah, well, it's going to be very, very busy. And that's part of the reason, you know, it's sort of a blessing and a curse losing a car because, yeah, it's nice to race with my dad. But having 2 cars, we're able to drill down a lot more because, you know, if sort of part of the deal of us going racing is we got to work on our own cars.
Right.
So I'm going to be in the shop putting the car back together. We're going to, you know, I put tires on. And now that, you know, when you had 3 cars and the crew that we had, I was, you know, fueling my own car, putting tires on, checking stuff. And we have a really, really good crew, but we're pretty tight-knit. They're all my closest friends type things. So it's, you know, without our crew, we couldn't do this. And now that we're reducing the workload a little, I think it'll be a little bit better, less people spread out over and be able to be a little bit more directive on what we're trying to accomplish.
Good stuff. Well, I wish you all the best this season. Lots of luck, because in racing you need a lot of luck. And again, of course, be safe.
Yeah.
And enjoy racing that Hyundai Elantra N TCR.
Thank you so much. No, I'm really, really excited to represent Quaker State and Hyundai Canada. Just put on a good show and put the car up front by any means necessary.
It's something your competitors maybe don't want to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Connor, thanks for joining us today. And thank you for joining us online as well. And feel free to listen in on the radio show, Dave's Corner Garage, AM 740, Saturdays 10 a.m., 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. on Sirius XM on Saturdays and Sundays as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You know, you feel that straight away, and then it's got a shorter wheelbase, so it's a little bit more lively. You know, there's a time and a place for the Kona. It's certainly fun around here. I think it would be more fun around the small circuit.
Yeah, the DDT track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, this one here, you know, it's certainly got a lower center of gravity. It's got better aero, a little bit longer wheelbase, and really suits the longer corners here.
Yeah, like this is a fast flowing track, right? So the Kona changes direction so quickly. It's so nimble and agile feeling, right? So,
Yes. Like this diff is outstanding. Okay, now we're gonna do the perfect corner 5 exit.
Carry all the speed. Back control really. Go, 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 go. Yeah.
Perfect.
Nice.
Ah, that was it. That was it. So let's see what we can do up the back straight now.
Got a little power shift in there.
Well, I
Getting
did
everything you can.
I did come off the throttle a little bit there. Just a little bit. Yeah, we're on our way here. We're going to see a big number. 207. 207.
That might be the quickest I see all day, I think. So,
It
yeah.
may be. Well, you might have better conditions tomorrow.
Yeah, true. Yeah. You'll just have to come back.
That's right.
We'll get you in for a second.
Unfortunately, I got to be at the dentist tomorrow,
Oh,
and not for anything fun.
no. Sorry to hear